Good morning,
Dr. Jyotish.
Good morning.
Yeah.
কেমন আছেন?
Hello.
আচ্ছা।
জি।
ডক্টর মঈনুদ্দিন?
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I'm hearing. Yes.
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 Can you hear?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's problem with you, Dr. Mainuddin. We can hear you.
শুনতে পাচ্ছেন না।
না এ তো ইয়ে করতে পারতেছে না।
প্রবলেম।
আমি আগে আমার ইয়াটা নিয়ে আসি আগে। এটা প্রেজেন্টেশনটা না রাখি।
হ্যাঁ, আমার কথা শুনতে পাচ্ছেন।
কোনটাতে যে রাখছি কনফারেন্স ডিসকার NMZ निकालो आ गया কোনটা ফাইনাল করলাম হ্যাঁ
ভিডিওটা অফ করে নিতে পারো সাময়িক খুঁজো তাতে
কোনটা
তোমারটা
না আমি খুঁজতেছি ইয়াটা ইয়া করে নাই নাকি দেখি সেভ হয় নাই দেখি মাত্র কয়টা ডাটা তো দিয়া সেভ করে দিই
Good morning, sir.
Okay, okay. Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear now.
maybe you have
Okay.
a problem
Yes, it was my problem. It's because this computer is sometimes I connect with the main, so it sometimes switches.
Yeah, yeah. So
Can you-
at Canberra it is afternoon.
Canberra, it is now
Yes.
3:30. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
3:30
Okay, Dr. Sarangi.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We are listening to you, sir.
So my this
Your sir video is not visible, but audio is clear.
So Professor Richard Bell is supposed to chair this, isn't it?
I think he has not joined. Yeah, he should be here. He should be.
yeah
then how
then after you Richard Bell presentation is after you
No, no, no.
Ah,
But
yeah,
he is
he
the
has
chairman.
then how I can
Yes,
connect
here he
connect
is.
the
Here he
video?
is. Yes.
Hi, chairman yes
Hello,
Hi,
chairman.
Bell. How are you
Hello, everyone.
yeah
nice to see
Hi,
you.
Bill.
Yeah, good to see you. Yes, all the familiar
Yes.
faces are here.
yeah
Yeah, it's look like project meeting.
oh all our project personnel yeah now at present
Yeah, except Jatish ran away from us.
yeah
So Richard, I will my presentation is fast, so I will then leave and then go to the other session to work as a chairman with Ed.
Yes, yes, yeah. Right,
Then
okay.
how can I connected this audio video?
Video, sir. Sir, there is a option in your screen, sir, at the right hand corner. if you click on 3 dots are there, sir. 3 dots on the 3 dots. If we sir click, then that will show that start video.
In the right side.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The right side in the Q&A, raise hand and chat.
Okay, okay, sir. Just a minute, sir. Just a minute, sir. Okay, okay. Just I'll do that, sir.
So I think Iskar
Now,
is
sir, you see,
very,
sir, on your screen, sir. Now you see, sir. On the right hand corner, at the top, 3 dots will be there.
এই যে শেয়ার স্ক্রিন এনে দিলে দেখেন ইয়াটা চলে আসে ওই যে প্রেজেন্টেশন ইয়াটা
Here you can, sir,
এই যে ধরেন
click
আমারটা
and
ইয়াতে
start
দেওয়া আছে
video.
মানে তো ওপেন করতে হবে আগে তাই না?
না না শেয়ার ডেস্কটপে রাখলেই ওইটা চলে আসছে তখন ওইটা ক্লিক করলেই আপনি চলে যাবে আগে ডেস্কটপে
Okay,
রাখেন
yeah. Now it is
Yes.
coming.
yes, we can see
Yes.
you. Welcome.
Welcome.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now you are visible, sir.
Yeah.
তিনটা কেন আচ্ছা যাই হোক
Sir, the program will start at 10:10. The scheduled time is 10:10 IST.
Yeah, I know. Because that's why I'm in this 5 minutes before I want to check the system.
Yeah, it is better, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, so I've had a challenging time trying to do all the conversions of 2.5 hours between Perth and Indian Standard Time. I hope I haven't messed them up.
Yeah.
So, Sarangi, I had an email with Dr. Sharma,
Okay.
and we agreed that for the first 3 speakers that he would chair because I'm in that batch of first 3 speakers. And
Okay, no problem. I will chair.
And then he's the 4th speaker, so I'll take over chairing, and then we'll rotate like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So everything going well so far?
Yeah, sir, it's going on fine. Fine.
So if any of the speakers for some reason don't log on or are absent, should we just wait until the next speaker's turn? Otherwise, we'll get
We can, sir, continue and he joins, then he will be given chance. We should not wait for him. We'll give him chance afterwards. We'll continue the program.
Yeah, you can continue with the other speaker if they are available, already joined.
ইয়াতে ডেস্কটপে অন করে দেন অন করলে বেশি সুবিধা হয় এই যে এখন দেখলাম মনে করেন ডেস্কটপে অন করে ওই যে শেয়ার দেওয়ার সাথে শেয়ার স্ক্রিন দেওয়ার
অফ করে নেন
হ্যাঁ
অন এটা শুনতেছি
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে বুঝছি হ্যাঁ না অসুবিধা নেই
So don't share it now. So
I want to check it.
okay. Okay, it's Richard's presentation.
Yeah.
No, I was just checking to make sure it's working.
Or should I check then?
Could do.
Let me check. Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so anyway, I can keep it because mine one is the first one. If anyone else don't want to check.
So it seems like this is a very big coordination and organizational task to manage everything.
Yeah. Mainly the time management is the most important factor.
Yeah, so one
Yeah.
thing I wasn't clear of is who's chairing the poster sessions?
Yeah, poster session, we have the list of chairs. chairs today is Dr. K. Das. Then another co-chair for theme 1, it's Dr. K. Das, and co-chair is Dr. Sanjay Saha. For theme 3 and 5, Chairman Dr. B. Saha, and co-chair is Dr. S.K. Jena. Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Sharma and I don't need to chair any of the theme 1, session 2 posters.
No,
No,
I
no.
think I also got confused, but they have separate session for them.
Yeah.
Separate.
Separate sessions,
Yeah.
posters. This
Yeah.
session is only for invited and oral speakers.
Invited and oral presentation.
Yeah, the separate session for this link is different also.
Yeah.
Yeah, link is also different. So initially I got confused.
Yeah.
Then I found that after
Okay.
checking the documents carefully.
Yeah, okay.
Different time slot is there for posters.
Yes, yeah.
Sir, in this session, we'll have 5 invited speakers and 6 oral speakers, and rest 2 speakers, oral speakers, will be another session, another timing of this session at 1:20 IST. Yes, at 1:20 IST with same chairman and co-chairman.
Yes.
Then tell the name of these 2 speakers.
Sir, I'll sir just if we allow, then we'll start the session now, sir. 1 minute.
Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, we'll wait for another 1 minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shall we start now?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
welcome to everyone. This is the session for the theme 1 on systems approach for coastal zone development.
This will stop other screen sharing. Do not want to continue.
And tolerance to biotic and abiotic stresses. Under this theme, this is the session 2 on agricultural crop management and cropping system intensification. This session will be initiated by Dr. D.K. Sharma, who is had a long distinguished professional career as different capacities and as director of ICAR Central Soil Salinity Research Institute, Karnal. He is having a wide range of publications, more than 271 publications, including 65 research papers in peer-reviewed journals, 81 in national journals. He has been honored with the FAO Fellowship, Fellow of NAS, Indian Society of Water Resources, Roorkee, Indian Society of Agronomy, Indian Society of Soil Salinity Water Quality, Indian Society of Coastal Agricultural Research. He is a recipient of several awards, notably the International Appreciation Award for significant contribution to stress tolerance rise in Africa and South Asia, and particularly leadership and support for the development, validation, dissemination of rice varieties and pertinent technologies for salt-affected areas by IRRI. He has been awarded with Hariom Ashram Award of Indian Council of Agricultural Research, Biotech Product and Process Development and Commercials Award of Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, Groundwater Augmentation Award of the Ministry of Water Resources, Government of India. He was the president of the Indian Society of Soil Salinity and Water Quality for the period 2011 to 16, and vice president of Indian Society of Coastal Agriculture Research from 2013 to 15, and for the second term from 2019-20. This session will be co-chaired now, will be Professor Richard Bell from Murdoch University, Perth, Australia. He's working as a professor of land management at this university since 2007. Most of his research has been on plant and crop nutrition and on management of problem soils, generally in the context of cropping and farming systems. Internationally, he has led collaborative research in Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, Thailand, and Vietnam, principally supported by the Australian Center for International Agricultural Research, and developed research partnerships with Brazil, India, and Turkey. He has supervised 65 PhD and master's students, and he has published over 200 peer-reviewed articles in journals and edited 15 books to his credit. So we have very learned chair and co-chair here. Now I request the chair to kindly proceed the session.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of the speakers and also the co-chair. And now we have this 5 invited presentation and 6 is this other presentations. So that the invited presentation 2 minutes are allowed, and after 15 minutes I will say raise my hand, and then you conclude and you summarize your presentation. So the first speaker is Dr. M. Manuddin. He is working as principal research scientist with the water section of the program of CSIRO, Land and Water Security Program of CSIRO, and he also did the work on water-based and in Canberra, Australia. He is over 30 years of research experience in integrated water resource management and modeling for river basin, coastal waters and salinity management, irrigation system, performance analysis, agriculture productivity, and food security analysis, socioeconomic and livelihood issues related to water use. He has worked on several major river basins in Asia, Australia, Africa, South America. He is currently leading project in Bangladesh and India dealing with cropping system intensification in the coastal zone, sustainable groundwater management for food security, and improve water productivity. Now I request Dr. Mohiuddin, his presentation title is Cropping Intensification in the Salt-affected Coastal Zones of Ganges Deltas. So Dr. Mohiuddin, please.
Thank you, Dr. Chairman. As you can see, the title of the presentation is very broad. This is mainly a project that we have been working in Bangladesh and West Bengal over the last 5 years, and many of my project partners are already in this meeting, including the co-chairman, Professor Richard Bell. So if you look at the coastal zone of the Ganges Delta, that is we all know this is the low-lying deltaic region with that is the area that is protected by dikes. So they are called polder because water outside the river, surrounding the river, is higher than the ground level inside the polders. The area is affected by salinity. There is a lack of fresh water, particularly in the dry season for irrigation. And it's mostly one crop is grown in the Kharif season. In the Rabi season, in mostly dry. So the issue here is that how we can increase productivity and cropping intensity in this very stress salinity stress region, and particularly how we can grow crops in the dry season. So the objective of this project is to sustainably increase cropping intensity and productivity in the coastal zone, and that we wanted to achieve through understanding of water resources, understanding of salt and water dynamics, understanding the crop production, and then testing different cropping options. So we have a big project that funded by SCR, which is called Australian Center for International Agriculture Research, and KGF, which is funding the Bangladesh component. And we have started working in 2015, and it's still going on. So it's a large project with many partners, CSIRO, Murdoch University, which Professor Richard Bell is the lead, Bangladesh Agriculture Research Institute, Rice Research Institute, Institute of Water Modeling, Khulna University, CSSRI, that Dr. Sharing is representing here, Bidhan Chandra Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, and TSRD. And we have also 16 PhD students working with us. And so it's a big team of 64 scientists. We have selected 3 representative locations in the area. That is, one is in Amtoli, that is in the southern that is here in the Potokali region. This Dakop, which is near Khulna, and the Gosaba Island in West Bengal, Sundarban region. So if you look at that region's water level, as you can see, this rainfall is quite high, but it is mostly in the May to October. In the dry season, January, February, November, December, there is almost no rainfall. So in the wet season, the salinity is low, and then when the river water goes down and the dry season approaches, the salinity of the river goes up. So there is no water for irrigation. Same is in the canal. So we can't use river water for irrigation at all. In the groundwater level is very close to the surface, as you can show in this figure, and they are also saline. So it's the groundwater is also saline in that region. So there is a lack of for fresh water for irrigation and drinking purposes. There are 4 major components of the project. That is, one is that how we manage the polders. That is the area within the dike. Then we want to conduct a field experiment, that is our field level activities. And then we did a lot of modeling in the crop production to understand the impact of salinity and other stresses. And then socioeconomic and community aspects. And then we worked on all 3 seasons, Kharif 1, Kharif 2, and Rabi season. Here's the snapshots of the polder level modeling. As I mentioned, this is an overview presentation. There will be many presentations from our project partner detailing of the different aspects in various sessions of this symposium. So this is mostly an overview just to show what we have done, but not going into much detail. So that polder and saltwater balance model we have developed for all 3 polders. That is how we manage the polders for managing the salt and water dynamics. So that model we can then use to run the scenarios to understand the impact of climate change, changing cropping pattern, management of polder structure, floods and cyclone. If the area is washed, how much it takes to recover for cropping again, pumping of if we pump or saline water, what will happen? And then, as I said, time required to recover polder if breaches by cyclone, which happened and during Ayla in 2009. So we also did a very comprehensive modeling to understand the surface water and groundwater and salinity interaction using 3-dimensional model, that how salinity is moving from one state to the other, vertically and horizontally, from field to the river and river to the aquifers. And then also we use that model to understand the various scenarios like climate change impact, what happened if we pump, how salinity will propagate inwards to the aquifer from the river, these kind of scenarios, like impact of climate change. So we conducted, every season we conducted a lot of experiments. As you can see, a list is I have provided. We have conducted in total about more than 275 experiments involving thousands of farmers, more than 2,000 farmers. Over the 4 years we have been working in the field. And these field experiments are on various aspects of crop production in the Kharif and Rabi season, like selection of short duration almond or Kharif varieties, aspects of Aush and Boro rice, growing vegetables with almond rice, finding suitable varieties of Rabi crops, finding their time of sowing, how to establish Rabi crop management, or irrigation and drainage aspects, and then outscaling, and then finding suitable cropping pattern. We introduced a range of crops: wheat, maize, millet, sunflower, some of these are never grown in this region before. So we have tested and then their suitability in the region. So if we go through one by one, so we introduced house rice, particularly in Dakop area. They never grown house rice within last 20 years. We introduced that, but there was little bit of cultivation in Amtoli, and we found that it is a quite profitable. Farmers can get yield of up to 4.5 ton per hectare, and it is economically highly profitable. We introduced one of the problem of for cropping intensification in this region is this long duration of Kharif rice. So we tried to introduce short duration, high yielding Kharif or almond rice in the region, and we found many suitable varieties for Bangladesh, like Bridan 87, 77, and 76. Similarly for Gosaba, Pratiksha, Santushi, and their yield is up to 1 ton higher than the currently cultivated varieties, as you can see in the figures, and they are 15 to 20 days earlier, and that is 50 to 60% higher benefit. One of the technologies, this is a very new technology we introduced in Bangladesh site initially, that growing vegetable with almond rice, rice, as you can see in the picture, though it has slight loss of yield in rice, but the additional benefit is many-fold than the loss of additional income from rice. So it has a opportunity for extra cash during the lean period, and that also provide a lot of valuable nutrition for the family. We introduced this also in Gosaba, and it is getting very popular among the farmers there. We introduced Boro rice in Bangladesh, which is a kind of first time in that saline prone region, and we found that is very suitable. We can achieve yield is up to 6.5 ton per hectare, and then farmers are very interested because its risk is very low. Its profit is guaranteed, and the farmers also can use it for their own consumption. But obviously, it's not suitable for water limited area where there is enough water that we can go for Boro rice as well, and it is getting popularity in that region. We did a lot of work in the Rabi season crop. That is one of this is the screening of suitable varieties. We try to find salt tolerant suitable varieties for different Rabi crops that we can grow. So we tested many, like as you can see, millet, barley, spinach, garlic, mustard, sunflower, broccoli, which is a very new crop in Gosaba. We tested and found it very suitable, and maize, potatoes, many other crops. After we found that some of the crops are suitable, we tried to determine their appropriate time of sowing. As you can see in this figure, we tried to Boro rice, wheat, maize, and sunflower. And one of these things is yield decline significantly with delay in timing. So the earlier we can sow these crop is more better yield we can get. And the reason for this is that for late sowing, the salinity affects the crop, particularly during the later stages of the crop. The groundwater, the salinity in the soil increases, which affects the crop. We tried different crop establishment method because we cannot wait for land to come into this favorable condition in terms of moisture. So we tried many different ways of cultivating, like zero tillage, which is getting very popular. Then dibbling and peat cultivation, transplanting, which is for crop which is usually sown like maize and sunflower. We use transplanting to cover the extra time. We use machineries like a power tiller operated seed machine, and also relay cropping, and found their suitability for different crops. We did a lot of experiments on crop management, like using mulch and finding out the different thickness of mulch, particularly for zero tillage potato, which is one of our breakthrough technology. Cover crop, soil, amendmenting soil, particularly in the Gosaba Island where a soil is acidic. How we can use balanced use of fertilizer, optimum spacing for the suitable crops like maize, sunflower, potato, tomato, and rice. because water is a problem, and that's the reason that there is a shortage of fresh water. Water is very important, as you know, for growing crops in the dry season. So we used a lot of experiments to find out how we can minimize the use of water or use of water. So used different techniques like conjunctive use of fresh and saline water, that applying different types of water at different stages of the crops. Use of storage ponds so that we can store water in the Kharif season and then use it for irrigation. We also check the drainage, how we can use drainage facilities to minimize the effect of waterlogging. Drip irrigation, as you can see, that how and also that pit type small pit irrigation. So we can see that how we can minimize the water use and then grow crops. It is very important that water and then community works on water management. So because as we say that field level management is intricately linked with the polder level management. There are a lot of canals and ponds. They can be used to store water for the dry season. And we organize the farmers in Bangladesh to re-excavate the canal so that they can bring fresh water from the river, or they can store fresh water in those canals and then use it for irrigation. So we have done a lot of community activities, which is very important for cultivating crops in the dry season. It is very important for us to understand the spatial variability in the soil, because as we know, the soil is saline, and then we need to understand how this variability saline varies in both vertically and horizontally, and how they are affecting the crops. We use a three-dimensional scanner for what is called electromagnetic scanning, which we use to scan the 1.6 meter depth of soil and to understand the distribution of soil salinity in the soil profile, as you can see in this figure, so that we can better understand the crop response to those saline condition and use this information in modeling. We used comprehensive modeling using the field experiment and all the data we have collected to understand that different scenarios of cropping using a crop production model. As you can see, this is the effect of yield or due to sowing dates. Further, we sow, then the variability yield is very high. Similarly, higher delay in sowing increase the irrigation requirement and lower the water productivity. So it's very important to understand the so modeling gives us how we can find optimum time for sowing for different crops, so that we can minimize the impact of salinity and maximize the water use. We also then looked at the different probabilities of FSIM to understand the scenarios using FSIM, like effect of sowing date, impact of yield on climate and salt, waterlogging impact, mulch, and then lowering of groundwater table, how they affect the crop, because it is not possible to experiment on all aspects in the field. Rather, we use the model to then extrapolate the model findings and scenario analysis. At the end, we found that over the 4 hours of our research, we found that there are many suitable cropping patterns that can come, is possible to maximize the, increase the cropping intensity, both in Bangladesh side, Amtuli and Dako and Gosab Island. One of the key is that what is the current cropping pattern is the Tiamon. We can if we can get a shorter duration Tiamon and then harvest it 2 weeks to 2 to 3 weeks early, then we can grow a range of Rabi season crops in profitable ways for this area. We did a lot. It is very important to understand the socio-economics dynamics. Otherwise, we cannot sustain these technologies. So we looked at the farmers' preference of different technologies through surveys. We checked how farmers respond to these evolving new technologies and change in cultivation practices. We understand these constraints and issues, how the adoption is taking place, how different factors, farmers perceive different factors in affecting the crop production. And we wanted to understand the risk of different cropping pattern, so that we recommend the cropping pattern that is low risk for the farmers. So it is very important for all these reasons that we work with the community and we empower the community and organize training and so that they can understand these complex environment, how to grow crops. So in the conclusion, so I am on my last slide. So this is a complex area. As you can see, there is lack of water, there is a salinity problem. So we need a complex problem. We need an integrated approach. What we did in this project, we have water scientists, hydrologists, all sorts of cropping practitioners, socioeconomists, modelers. So we work together in a team to find the solution to those problems. So our findings provide evidence that intensification is feasible and profitable. We have some breakthrough technologies like zero-tillage potato, sunflower, maize, boro and ouse rice, vegetable with almond rice. There are evidence that farmers are adopting, as you can see in those figures, that when we started the area and the current in 2019 condition. And obviously there are more to be done to increase the resilience of the system and outscaling. And ACR, our funding agency, has already approved a second phase of the project, which we are going already started, which will continue our work until 2025. There are a lot of publications. Anyone interested to look at the publication that is coming up of this project, you are most welcome to contact us. We have the 26 journal paper already published, several are in review. There is a special issue of ISCAR journal, that is the September 2019 issue, which just published the papers from this project in this special issue. So anyone interested can also look at this publication. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mohiuddin, very much. Now you have presented your talk one minute before, so it is very well presented. And I want to ask one question only.
Yes.
Now you have presented very nicely regarding the selection of crops, different low water requirement crops, and crop management and water management, particularly constructive use of poor and good quality water, drip irrigation and drainage. But you have also presented this rice yielding is 6.5 tons per hectare.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know the water, this to produce a 1 kg of rice, 3,000 liter water is required. So where is the water of during Rabi season?
Yeah, we mentioned that there are some pockets area, particularly in Bangladesh, where there is enough water to grow boro rice. So as you may have seen that I qualified that only where there is enough water is available, then farmers can grow boro rice. We are only recommending for those areas, but our preference is for aush and other crops.
Okay.
Of course, what the point you raised is very important.
Yeah. Is there any questions and clarifications? No. Now I want to move our second learning.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now I want to move the second presentation of Dr. G.S. Viswas, formerly Soil Science Division, Bangladesh Rice Research Institute, Gazipur, Bangladesh. Dr. Viswas did MSc Agriculture in Agronomy, Bangladesh Agriculture University, and also PhD from University of Philippines at IRI, Los Baños, Philippines. He was a researcher at Berry for about 32 years. His research areas were improvement of rice and rice-based cropping system, INM, IPM, and climate change, impact assessment of agriculture in Bangladesh. He published 100 research articles in national and international journal of repute. At present, he is working as Advisory Board, member of Southeastern Nitrogen Hub, funded by UK. His title of presentation is Coastal Agriculture Development in Bangladesh, Soil Fertility and Land Productivity. So I request Dr. Biswas for presentation. Dr. Biswas, please.
Dr. Biswas, first open your presentation, then share the screen. I think you have already there. It is there. You have click on the presentation. Just present over there. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, Dr. Moinuddin has presented a overview, so I will not talk about those things. Only welcome to my presentation on coastal agricultural development in Bangladesh. Especially, I will be talking on soil fertility mostly. So, as you know, the coastal area is really a very big area that 1/3 population live there, and about 30% agricultural lands covered in this area, having soil saline area almost 0.83 million hectare with variable intensities. So these are the hotspot also for natural calamities. So growing crops in those areas are really a big issue, besides the flow of nutrients from other sources, say for example, agriculture and aquaculture, surface runoff, erosion and siltation, transboundary deposition, tidal surge, industry, etc. actually influence the native soil fertility, and thus it influences soil and water quality tremendously, and thus native ratio of nutrient changes. So we can show one example here. You see one of the example from Sonagazi area, southeastern part of Bangladesh, where calcium ratio with phosphorus, then calcium with zinc, that acted synergistically for grain yield, but there are some parameters also significantly or antagonistically affected boro rice yield. So soil nutrient management is really very crucial issue.
Sir, your slide is not shared.
Not shared?
Not shared.
Oh my God. Then share is shared.
Share is screen then. Yeah, share is screen.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Just
okay. Sorry
mode.
for.
Click the presentation mode.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That as I was mentioning, that the native nutrient ratio changes because of flow from different sources, and we did some experiment in Sonagazi area, and we found that there are synergistic and antagonistic effect of nutrient ratios. Although very good ratio we cannot mention, but definitely we have to find out the proportion of different nutrients so that we can manage fertility of that particular area. This is just one of the example. And as you know, the other problem is salinity is increasing, while in some parts, say for example, Barguna, Chatpur, Feni, Lakshmipur, salinity is decreasing, but intrusion with other districts, say for example, Borishal, Gopalganj, Jashur, Jalkati, Madaripur and Noral, they are coming towards the inland. So that's really a big issue for the future agriculture in Bangladesh. So we have to consider all those factors. Besides, the composition or soil status is different in different parts of the country. Say for example, clay, heavy clay in the southern part of Bangladesh, but southeast part is light textured soil. Besides, sulfate and bicarbonate component and chloride component varies depend on the regions of the country. So our reclamation pattern, soil nutrient pattern, and the amendment will also be very effectively. And then you see the calcium, magnesium, and potassium status is really variable in this area, especially if we can give one example here. Again, I have found in Sonagaji that in some soil sample, there was calcium below optimum level. So generally, soil test-based fertilizers, these are not considered, especially calcium, magnesium in most cases, but we have to consider for our saline area so that we can harvest a good yield. So if we consider soil organic carbon, available phosphorus, sulfur, zinc, and along with cation exchange capacity, soil pH, and exchangeable K, you see in this area, our soil fertility is not really that good. Similarly, our soil health is not really good in the southern part of the country and in other coastal areas, especially the southeast. So all these factors really dictate us that we have to take care of our soil in terms of amendment, in terms of soil management. So what can be done? Besides, global surface temperature is increasing, so carbon mineralization loss will be higher in future. In that case, what we have found that with higher temperature, loss of carbon was higher, but it depended on what organic materials will be used for amendment. Here we have found rice husk biochar was the most recalcitrant material where carbon loss was minimum, indicating that such type of amendment will be needed for southern Bangladesh or even in whole Bangladesh. And this slide, as I also mentioned, that dry season is remain fallow for most part of the country, southern part of the country. So productivity is really less compared to other part of the country. And to improve such land productivity, we have to take integrated approach of water management, then salinity management, then we can go for selection of crop. So use of water, especially dry season, water crisis is a factor. But in use of mixed water, that means pond water with brackish water, an experiment was conducted by OFRD Bari, and they have found that water can be mixed with fresh water and can get some yield quite satisfactorily, but no treatment, especially for nutrient, was not done. So we have to find out the nutrient management option if we really want to use saline water in mixture with fresh water. So again, amendment with bioorganic fertilizer or addition of organic materials we did in parts of the country, and to have found that use of bioorganic fertilizer, that means a combination of organic and inorganic fertilizer where 10 growth promoting bacteria was used, and so these materials was really very good where we got higher yield than conventional chemical fertilizer only. We can give another example here. In Borguna and Khulna, we have seen that use of bioorganic fertilizer was better than use of chemical fertilizer, or rather we can call it the comparable. So if we can use integrated use of organic and inorganic nutrient sources where ash, that means the source of potassium, is really a good issue or vital issue for management crop productivity in coastal areas. So some of the limitations in nutrient management are, in most cases, biological properties are not considered, micronutrients are not considered in many cases. Nutrient deposition continuously changes because of tidal flow. Soil testing facilities are inadequate for farmers in many cases. Besides, socioeconomic conditions are not in favor of the efficient nutrient management. So, considering all those things, my conclusion is that there are multifaceted problems in coastal areas. So integrated approach is needed for fostering crop production. And on farm level, it should be considered critical use of nutrients as much as can be done, and use of manures as sawdust, straw, biochar are effective. Ecological production need to be considered, especially recycling of agricultural waste. And soil fertility map at the community level is needed because soil fertility status varies so greatly that we need to know actually for nutrient management. For strategic point of view, land reclamation should be based on eco-engineering, and land transformation will be needed, especially sea level is rising. So in future, land transformation will be definitely needed. And then biodiversity conservation, we have to really protect marshland. Sometimes it is not protected. And establishment of riparian buffers. You see, in most cases it is absent, so it has to be done. And recycling of industrial and municipal waste is really essential, especially in Chittagong coastal belt. A huge pollutants are mixed every day, so these has to be considered. This is the last slide, but just wanted to show you that a land side by side, one is growing better, but the other one is not. So this macro level problem has to be identified before nutrient management. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you very much. You have concluded your presentation very well before the time. Thank you very much, Dr. Vishwas. Now you have this presented the integrated nutrient management. Yeah, it is very well, and also the very responsive during the Rabi season, but during the rainy season it is very difficult because of the heavy rainfall, the bund of this field is not visible, whole area is flooded. So how can you manage this integrated nutrient management during the rainy season?
Okay, thank you, sir. The thing is that this will be very effective in dry season because in wet season there are excess of water. Yeah. It's not actually possible in wet season, although we tried in some medium highland, we found it is effective, but not suitable for dry season because in dry season land remains fallow because of water crisis.
Okay, thank you very much. And now the next is a very well learned speaker is Professor Richard Bell. He is the Professor of Sustainable Land Management, Murdoch University, Perth, Australia. Professor Bell has held academic position at Murdoch since 1990 and has been Professor of Land Management since 2007. Most of his research work has been on the plant and crop nutrition and management of problem soils, generally in the context cropping and farming system. He has lead collaborative research program in Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, Thailand, and Vietnam. Principle supported by the ACIAR Australia and developed research partnership of the Bangladesh, India, and Turkey. He supervised 65 PhD and master degree students. He has published 200 peer-reviewed articles in journals of national, international repute, and he has edited 15 books. Now, topic of Dr. Bell will speak on the benefit and risk of early sowing Rabi season crops in the coastal zone of Ganges Delta. Dr. Bell, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma, and welcome to everyone. So in the first talk in this session, Dr. Mainuddin outlined a collaborative research project. What I'm going to talk about is one of the components of that, and some of the issues that I'm raising have already been introduced by Dr. Mainuddin. The research of that project shows many very promising opportunities for cropping systems intensification in the coastal zone. And I'd like to focus on why, and particularly the early sowing option. But in this talk, I want to emphasize that there are some added risks involved in the early sowing of Rabi season crops, and present some of our findings in that regard. This is a collaborative effort from many of the partners involved in Dr. Mainuddin's project. The key issues for the coastal zone have already been introduced. So yield of the Kharif rice crop is low and the cropping intensity is low. So in the map to the right, the pink areas are areas that are fallow in the dry season. And you can see that that occupies a very large proportion of that coastal zone in Bangladesh and also in West Bengal. The low cropping intensity is due to late harvest of rice and prolonged waterlogging at the end of the monsoon. The exposure of the Rabi season crops to high salinity and the limited fresh water for irrigation. Currently, we have a cropping system which in most areas is a single rice crop, a traditional monsoon rice crop, which is transplanted in August. Often transplanting has to be delayed until the end of the spring tides. And then it's a long season Kharif rice crop that is harvested perhaps late in December or all the way through to late in January, which means that the land generally remains fallow after that, although there may be some crops sown late in the Rabi season. So the main crop is this long duration rice, but there are some Rabi season crops, and mung bean is reasonably popular in parts of Bangladesh. As Dr. Mainuddin said, in our project, we decided if we're going to change the Rabi season crop period, planting date and sowing date, then we need to look at the rice crop. In particular, what are the options for growing earlier maturing Kharif rice, and in particular, whether they can achieve the same yield or better than the traditional varieties. So in Bangladesh, where we've done this research, we've been able to find modern varieties bred by Biri, which not only mature 15 to 30 days earlier, but also increase the yield compared to traditional varieties by 1 to 1.5 tons. But it's necessary in this area to plant those varieties in a block planting to minimize the rat and bird damage that can occur from isolated field plantings. Similarly, in Gosaba, West Bengal, our collaborators have found modern varieties that have higher yield than the traditional varieties and mature earlier. And they've also found that direct seeding of rice can achieve earlier harvesting. So that means we can think about changing the cropping system and intensifying it by growing these medium duration, high yield Kharif rice, which are harvested from mid-November to late November. which means that now the high value Robbie season crops can be planted in November through to the middle of December. Oops, sorry, I jumped over a couple of slides. And those crops in turn can be harvested in March through April, with the possibility of a third crop, such as a short duration Aush rice crop planted at the beginning of the early monsoon season, as Dr. Mainuddin said. So that really is our main aim in this work, to change the cropping season, all based on early maturing rice, so that we can plant the Robbie season crops early and potentially put in a third crop. However, in order to do that, we need to be aware that there are constraints both at the planting time as well as the maturity time of crops. If we plant earlier, there will be greater problems of waterlogging and perhaps waterlogging salt interactions. The soil may be too wet for mechanized tillage, and both of these things could lead to delay in establishment, so that we can't achieve the earliness that we desire. At the other end of the season, crops tend to run out of water, soil water availability declines. There may be increased risk of heat stress and high evaporative demand, which together with osmotic stress and ion toxicity can impact on the yield of crops. In addition, the clay type soils that occur in the coastal zone tend to compact, harden when they dry, and crack. So in order to develop this new intensified cropping system based around early sowing of Robbie season crops, we have systematically looked at sowing time and method, drainage, irrigation technology, establishment methods, the importance of mulch, and different crop tolerances. But today I'm going to focus on sowing time, and other speakers in this session and in some of the poster sessions will illustrate our findings with some of those other aspects. Let me focus now on the early sowing. By early sowing, we mean the latter half of November, but it could stretch into the early part of December. And we've tested this for many crops, for wheat and maize, which are shown in the figures here, also for legumes, lentil, grass pea, for mustard, and for sunflower. And in all cases, we find that if you drain the soil effectively, the early sowing in November gives you the best yield, and every few days delay in sowing causes a decline in the yield. So you've got these strong linear declines in yield across different years and different sites when you delay the sowing. The orange lines are interesting because they, and the green line for maize are interesting because they show, even though time of sowing is important, some years the yield is substantially less than in other years, or in some locations the yield is substantially less than others. So we need to understand what it is that causes those big fluctuations in the yield. Why do we think that the early sowing improves yields of Robbie season crops? One of the main reasons is that the early sowing delays flowering, and so plants have a longer vegetative growth phase, and that means that they accumulate more carbon in their leaves and stems, and that helps to fill up more grain and increase the yield. Secondly, if you plant earlier, most of the growth of the crop is occurring when there's adequate soil water and low soil salinity. And so if the crop critical growth phases up to flowering, for example, can be finished before the soil water declines and the salinity level rises, then overall the crop suffers less stress. Moreover, the early maturing of the early sowing crops means that they don't suffer as much from heat stress, and they will also escape from early monsoon waterlogging and storms that can occur in April. However, there are not only benefits, there are risks from early sowing, which are illustrated in this slide here from Dr. Priyalal Chandapal, who recently completed his PhD. And the work presented in this slide is from a paper that's under revision for Agronomy for Sustainable Development. So I want you to look firstly at the closed circles, which was for the 2016-17 sunflower crop, where sowing in 25th of November and 30th of November gave maximum yield, and after that delay in sowing caused the yield to decline. So the end of December sowing, which is what most farmers would currently use, is producing 1 tonne less yield than sowing at the 30th of November. The next year, with sowing across the same range and even into January, we got a different response. The first sowing actually had reduced yield, only 2 tonnes, and the second and third sowing gave the maximum yield. So the maximum yield in the second year was in the middle of December. And the reason for that is there was heavy rainfall on the 7th to 9th of December, which badly waterlogged the first sowing, but the second and third sowing escaped from that waterlogging. So the very early sowings do have a higher risk from late monsoon rainfall that has to be managed. Overall, we need to recognise that early sowing is going to have a high waterlogging risk. Even if you drain excess water before sowing, out of season rainfall during the dry season may give rise to waterlogging. And in some of our experiments, that waterlogging halved the yield of maize from 8 to 9 tonnes to 4 to 5 tonnes. Where standing water remains in the field for several days, very severe crop damage occurs. So the photograph shows the type of waterlogging and standing water that you can get. If that water is quickly drained off the field within 24 hours, there may still be some damage to the crop, but we have shown in our work a sunflower crop so affected could still recover to produce 2 tonnes of yield. And a poster that's going to be presented later today by Nazrul Islam on his PhD work will show you some of the studies that we're doing with surface and subsurface and combined drains. And this photograph from Nazrul's work shows how plants recovered 17 days after a waterlogging event at the end of February, and the plants that had the best drainage had recovered the best. But we need in this environment to study the rainfall over the last several decades to really understand the risks of these heavy rainfall events during the dry season. This is work from Dr. Yingying Yu from CSIRO for 6 different locations in the coastal zone, including in West Bengal. And just at a glance of this figure, you can see that the incidence of the heavy rainfall events over 50 millimetres in a 10-day period increased markedly from mid-January onwards. In early December through to early December, the frequency of those heavy rainfall events is much less. Something else that Yingying observed from this data set was that there's some evidence that the incidence of heavy rainfall events in early January has increased in the last decade compared to the previous decade. So that may be an indication of climate change, which is increasing the risk of these waterlogging inducing events, particularly for the early sowing crops. As Dr. Mainuddin mentioned, we have used crop simulation modelling with the APSIM model that Dr. Don Gaydon from CSIRO is an expert in. And so we've only been able to do experiments in the field for 1, 2, or 3 years maximum, but we need to know the longer term scenario of risk, and APSIM is a very good way to give us a window into that. So Don has modeled crops using the rainfall from 1995 to 2018. And he too found with the crop simulation model that the optimum period for establishment was 15th to 30th of November. Earlier sowing is not very helpful because there's greater winter chilling of the crops. And delaying the sowing after 15th of November, especially 30th of November, increases the risk of salinity. And the longer the delay after 15th of November, the greater the delay due to salinity. And he also was able to verify that these heavy waterlogging events are quite damaging to crop yield. So this is a closer look at some of the figures that Mainuddin showed. These are the crop simulations expressing yield on the x-axis against probability. So what it's showing is that in this coastal environment, if there was no salinity, you could really sow until the end of December and there'd be very little difference in yield. But in January, as you delay the sowing, the yield declines. However, when the soil is salty, the effect of delaying sowing on yield becomes much more pronounced. So in the saline environment, it's these late November to early December sowings that give you the best yield. Too early can be damaging because of the cold effect, and later progressively decreases the yield potential. Boro rice is an interesting case because it's quite insensitive to delay in sowing after the optimum sowing time of 15th of November. And presumably that's because with Boro rice, there's enough water stored in the paddy that it flushes the salts out and minimizes the salinity effect. So that means that if for any reason there was heavy waterlogging that delayed early sowing and there's water available, farmers might decide that Boro rice was a suitable backup option for them. So I'd like to wrap up here with what we think all of this means in terms of developing new cropping systems that sow Robbie season crops early and manage the risk of those. The first is that not all land in the coastal zone is the same. There are different land types. There are different degrees of drainage, some land that drains quickly and well, and other land that is has a lot of stagnant water. So we can choose different crops and cultivars according to land type and their land suitability. We think that it's not just waterlogging and salinity that we need to worry about, but it's the combination of those two stresses together. When plants are waterlogged, their tolerance to salinity is much reduced. Secondly, the focus has been on salinity and low soil water, but we have experimental results suggesting that it's actually the combination of low soil water and salt that's expressed as the solute potential in the soil water that probably is having a more direct impact on crops towards the end of the Robbie season. As we introduce early sowing of crops in the Robbie season and different crops, then we need to develop appropriate agronomy for those crops. There is some fresh water in the coastal zone, but it needs to be used effectively. And PhD student Afrin Mila Jahan is going to give a poster on her study looking at how to maximize the productivity of limited fresh water. We've shown examples of how climate analysis can help us understand risk, and there's a lot more that we could do in that respect. And crop modelling is an excellent way in which we can look at the long-term risks scenarios. The intensified cropping systems need to be tested for their economic value to farmers. And in some cases, these new crops will only be profitable to farmers if the appropriate market chains are developed. So for example, in Bangladesh, sunflower is a very promising crop, but the market chain needs more development. And in Kosovo, maize has been a very profitable crop, but further work is needed to develop a reliable market chain before farmers will take up these crops. So we are now at the phase of looking at how to do some of this extra work, as well as outscaling this early planting technology. And as Dr. Mainuddin said, we're about to embark on a new project that ACR and KGF in Bangladesh, as well as our partners in India, have agreed to fund. So we look forward to developing this work and continuing to report to you on the findings from this research. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bale. Now, you concluded very well and within the time frame. And now, when you were saying that early sowing, so early sowing means because of this November, before that the fallow land is available. Otherwise than the rice during the rainy season, land is not available for sowing the early crop of the Rabi.
That's correct. Under the traditional varieties and the traditional water management, that is true. But our proposition or our recommendation is that we take a fresh look at the opportunities in the coastal zone by having earlier maturing rice varieties. So that clears the land in November. And then we have to drain the water. So that requires a coordinated community management, water management approach. Do those two things, then the land is fallow and ready for early sowing of the Rabi season crops.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any clarification or questions?
Sir, I have one.
Okay.
Thanks, Professor Richard, for excellent presentation. You have very well covered the many things. Now, when we see the early sowing, there is some year-to-year variation with respect to the performance of crops. So do you think that this weather forecasting and early warning systems, nowadays this long-term, medium-term, short-term, even now costs are there, whether those things will be some benefit to the farmers in selecting the crops, that if there is a forecast that next year during the month of December, there is going to be a heavy spell. So that kind of information, whether it will be useful.
That's a very good observation, and I agree with that. So, and we look forward to seeing those early warning systems and longer term reliable weather forecasting, because I think they'll be very beneficial to farmers to minimize their risk and by making alternative choices for crops.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to Dr. Professor Bell.
Thank you. So we're doing a rotation here that the chair becomes the speaker and the speaker becomes the chair.
Okay.
So Dr. Sharma has already been introduced at the beginning of this session. So I think we'll, in the interest of time, we will ask him to proceed with his presentation on farming system intensification for the coastal ecosystems. So Dr. Sharma, please proceed with your...
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Well. Now, because of this increasing population day by day, starting from 1 AD, we have the 0.3 billion peoples all over the world. But after 1080 years, it will increase to 0.98, less than 1 billion. After 100 years, or say 1900, we increase 1.6 times. And 2000, after again 100 years, the population of whole of the world increased about 3.5 times. And within 50 years, we have increased the population from 6.06 to 7.5 billion. So because of the increasing population, for this population, we provide the food and other basic necessities like water and other inputs to sustain the human life. And to make matter worse, the population explosion is associated with the soil and water degradation and also the potential of global warming. So in this, this is the whole of the world scenario. But in India, at where the population is 1.25 billion, and it will increase to 1.6 billion in 2050. For this population, population will increase 33%. And for this population, we now require 235 million tons, and it will increase to 377 million tons of food grain. But this is the increase of the food requirement of about 60%. And this, but our land net cultivated area is presently 1.42 million hectare, but it will increase to 1.145 million hectare. So in this coming years, we have to increase how we can increase our population, and it is produce more from each acre of land. So in this direction, but you have this because of the technological innovation and also the policy makers. These two things will increase the farmers' income and also the productivity of land. If we start 1750 to initially we have the less implements, and from 1950 to 2000 we have developed the high yielding variety, fertilizer, irrigation, and biotechnology and farming system. And now the coming years, from this 2000 to 2100, we have to do much more on the natural resource management, especially soil, water, nutrient management, soil restoration, and also the precision farming, conservation tillage, and agroforestry. So in this direction, we have to move. But with reference to the coastal salinity, we have this eastern coast and western coast. Starting from this eastern coast, from this Calcutta, Canning Town to all this 8 states of India up to the Gujarat. So we have the 10.7 million hectare of this eastern coast area. The potential of this area is we have either in the Sundarban or Andaman Nicobar Island, we have the excess amount of rainfall. Annual rainfall in the Canning Town is more than 1,800 millimeter, but in this Andaman Nicobar, we have the more than 3,000 millimeter. So this is the potential of that area if we harvest, but the evaporation is less. So we create the irrigation resources for dry season for multiple cropping and also reduce the effect of soil water degradation in this coastal area. So in the coastal region of the nearest sea, storehouse of the high saline water, more than 35 decisiemens per meter. So in this area, we have the enough scope of the biodiversity and also development activities around this area. So in this direction, a major weakness of this area is degraded soil and water quality, cell and groundwater table in shallow depth, lack of irrigation water, heavy rains during the monsoon, and very less rain during the winter season, drainage congestion and waterlogging, high humidity, poor economic base of the farmers. This is the more, because the technology adoption is based on the how this economic base of the farmer. It is very much important. And other weaknesses of this area is weather variability, fragile ecosystem, anthropogenic activities, aggravation of the problem, and all the sea level rise, lack of knowledge and skill, and the size of land holding of the farmer in the coastal area is very much affected for percolation of the technology in this area. So this main weakness of the monocrop, because of this monsoon type of climate and salinity, the farmers are growing monocrop during the rice, kharif season, rainy season. Non-profitable agriculture, huge migration of labor, high employment, poor socio-economic condition, poor livelihood security of the farmers, creating additional stress on ecosystem. So this is this major problem due to crop intensification will be the degradation of soil from overuse of chemical fertilizer and also the pesticide. It will affect the soil health status of the farming community, declining in crop diversity, over exploitation and deterioration of the groundwater quality, water logging, and soil salinity. In the farming system intensification model, the main objective to increase the farm income through crop intensification with economic and ecological sustainability, and immediate objectives are evaluation of the different component of intensification of agriculture models to optimize the resource base, to monitor soil health and quality in the different systems, to quantify greenhouse gases mitigation potential of intensified agriculture. And this is the different management option of this area. We have to combine this cover crops and also the manure and fertilizer and the biofertilizer and compost also to increase the soil health on this area. Now, the scientists of the Coastal Research Institute, Goa, they have conducted the experiment in this monocrop rice cropping system, and also the integrated farming system, diversified cropping system. Farmers are getting the whole of the year income, because our main aim is to increase the farmers' income throughout the year, because farmers require education of children, cloth, and other activities of the farmers throughout the year, but the income is only seasonal. So when we go to the diversified cropping system, the income of the farmers throughout the year will increase. And this is the other system of this different crops in the system, this global warming potential and also the non-renewable energy. It is the link between these two. When we have the low global warming potential of the crops as well as the production of the egg, meat, milk, and fish. Ultimately, the forest production, the global water potential, this warming potential is the very less, followed by the milk and other food habit. And then we have the different variety of the salt tolerance we develop at the Kandal, the coastal area, and the rice we have developed 7 variety, wheat we have developed, and also the appropriate 4 variety, and Indian mustard 6 variety of salt tolerance. And this varieties cover about 8 lakh hectare per year area, and we have produced seed and breeder seed and certified seed of this variety during last few years, 70 ton per year. Then estimate production due to CSR varieties, the additional production is 9 lakh ton per year. So this is the, then again the diversified agriculture for reclaimed sodic soil. We have the model, and we have the different farming system models. This rice wheat system, and also the vegetable, and also the animal based and fishery. So in this we have the different system. The monthly income has been increased very much at Kandahar from this, and the farmers are getting every month income as compared to 2-month income in the rice wheat cropping system. Then the greenhouse gases, CO2, N2O, and methane, and also the carbon dioxide equivalent, this integrated farming system is much more as compared to other cropping system and also the horticulture system, and it can reduce the warming potential by growing the diversified cropping system. This is GPW mitigation through diversified agriculture. We can reduce this per hectare basis when we diversified our cropping system. I want to share this because of this diversified cropping system. We have this reduced the greenhouse gas emission here, but every input use efficiency is increased. The income of the farmer, fertilizer use efficiency, employment generation, chemical pesticide, irrigation efficiency is increasing from this diversified cropping system, and this mechanical efficiency and energy production efficiency through diversified cropping system. Then we have the enough rainfall during the Kharif season in the coastal area. We can harvest this rainwater, and use in the coming Rabi season. So this is the model developed in our regional research station, because I was the director of the CSSRI Karnal from 2010 to 2016, and during these period they have developed a different model of, because the excess amount of rainfall is available during the Kharif season, rainy season, and we can harvest this excess water to produce a next Rabi season crop. So the water use efficiency and this cropping intensity has been increased from 100% to more than 200% by this different farm system model and land modification. These are the different land modification structure we have developed at our CSSRI regional research station Canning Town, and these are this different this paddy cum fish cultivation, and also the other system, the land shaping, and then this paddy cum fish vegetable cum cultivation. And this is you see this we have increased the paddy yield from this 3.92 per hectare during the Rabi season. Because of the flooding, paddy yield was seriously affected due to flood, and at the same time we also got this fish production in the 1.12 ton per hectare basis. So these are the different model. This major cropping system of deep furrow and high ridge land modification system. And then in the conclusion, I want to say for this coastal area farmers, because of this economic base and also the vagaries of monsoon, and then other problem farmers are facing, so we can increase the farmers' income through reduce the input cost. Because in this input cost is the mainly the 3 or 4. First is the water, second is the fertilizer, third is the pesticide, Fourth is the energy. Energy is the important input cost. So we can reduce this cost of production. Then at the same time, we can increase the yield and also improve the quality of produce. So the farmer's income will be increased from these two systems, two types. And second is to maintain the soil health and the water quality. It is very much important to increase the sustainability of the soil and also the cropping system, and reduce the global warming potential of the greenhouse gases with different crop intensification and farming system. I have presented the slide for this purpose. When we go the diversified cropping system, the global warming potential will reduce, and at the cost of the farmer's income will increase. So this is all in brief. Thank you very much. Very nice you have listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. I think we could have one question.
Okay.
Is there anyone who would like to ask a question? If not, perhaps I could ask this question. Do you see the land reshaping and engineering being something that individual farmers do with their own funds or by lending money from the bank, or does it need investment from government sources for the initial cost?
Yeah, it is very good question, because the farmer resource base or economic base of the farmers is not to have the very good condition. So the initial cost of the land shaping will be met by the nationalized bank or banking system. So this is the doable model for the banking. If the farmers are getting loan from the bank and they can reshape their land, and also every year this farmer's income will increase, then easily within the 4 or 5 years he will easily the repayment of the bank loan. And because of the in our country the banking loan system is also very good. NABARD is also providing the money to the farmer, and other nationalized banking also provide, and also that is Sundarban Development Corporation. They are, yeah. So these are the 3 organizations. They will provide the bank loan to the farmer.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharma. I think we might finish there, and that's on a very positive note, indicating that the banking system is interested to provide credit for farmers to undertake this land reshaping initiative. Can I remind all the participants that you can use the Q&A box to ask questions. So if during the talk you have a question, you can post it there and we'll make sure that we ask your question.
Dr. Richard, can I ask one question?
Okay.
Yes, just a quick one.
Dr. Sharma, sir, is there any differences in greenhouse gas emission in saline area versus normal soil area?
Because in the normal soil area, this crop system is and also the input is more put in the system. As compared the yield level in this normal soil is as higher than the coastal area. So so the naturally this global warming potential is slightly higher or higher in a normal production system as compared to coastal area.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So Dr. Sharma, can you end the sharing of your screen so that we can prepare for the next speaker?
Okay.
And we had a message that the next speaker, Dr. Gauranga Kar, is unable to present by himself, but he has asked Dr. Ritesh Saha to present the paper on his behalf. So And so this is a paper from the ICAR Central Research Institute for Jute and Allied Fibers in Barrackpore. So is the speaker ready to begin?
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
You are, and your presentation is visible. So welcome and please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman, sir. Respected Chairman, sir, and other distinguished panelists and all the invitees. I am on behalf of Dr. Gaurango Kaur presenting this particular topic, that is cropping system characterization of coastal seasonal waterlogged areas using geospatial technologies. The rationality between this study is that we all know that the coastal zone of India suffers from multiple weather hazards like flood, drought, cyclone, etc. And in this particular area, that is Odisha state, is having high rainfall, almost average 1500 mm. And during particularly June to September month, with poor drainage condition, which makes this area waterlogged and flood prone for 3 to 4 months, that is July to October, with varying depth, that is 0.5 to 2 meter in low-lying areas, as well as 0.1 to 0.5 meter in high land areas. So keeping these in view, this study actually conducted to have some geospatial maps based on that waterlogged areas and some reclamation or crop planning for further sustainability. The methodology adapted in this study is by overlaying digital elevation map, slope, and soil map of the coastal districts of Odisha, and then pond-centric farming, land modification-based farming, like waterlogging, tolerant rice, fish inside pond, undiked vegetable, undiked forestry, then aquatic crops, poultry, etc. These are developed. And after assessing this impact, the integrated pond-based farming system with poultry, fish, vegetables, and on-dike agroforestry system was found to be a viable option in this area. This is the coastal area development using remote sensing and GIS. The Puri districts and the particular block, that is Satyavadi block. This is digital elevation model with contour. You can, as you can see, the most of the area is medium to high elevation level. Then this is slope map, and the slope ranging from 0.1 to 0.5 meter. Then this is surface waterlogging depth for the particular study area, that is Satyavadi block, Puri, Odisha. And you can see the it is having diversity in waterlogged condition, ranging from maybe from 0.55 to at the extent of 1.5. This is the study area. And this is the digital elevation model. This is slope map for the particular Odisha districts. Similarly, this is the land use category of coastal Odisha. As you can see, most of the area is under cultivated condition with some areas under forest. This is soil textures map, and it is mostly clay to loamy in texture. This is a flood zone map of the coastal Odisha. As you can see, the areas adjoining to the sea is highly susceptible for flood, which are actually depicted here. So based on this study, the planning and implementation of cropping system in coastal seasonal waterlogged areas has been done, the case study. This is repetition, actually this slide already shown. Okay. So based on this and water and crop planning for this particular area, for the location like 1, 2, 3, we have given the location of rain or flood water was identified and harvesting ponds constructed by taking almost 25 to 30% of the total field area and rest of the field was utilized for intensive field cultivation. The pond site slope was given 1.1 ratio because of heavy soil textures and minimum band bottom with 8 meter wide and top height of 3.5 meter. So based on this, actually the height of the band in each location was determined by the waterlogging or flood condition. Then keeping a free board of 0.5 meter, maximum of 1.25 meter, 1.75 meter and 2.5 meter band height was constructed for the water harvesting pond in location 1, 2 and 3 respectively. This is a diagram for the waterlogged areas and the land configuration. As you can see, the dug out area is 0.2 to 2.5 meter, and similarly the band or trenches is 1 to 1.5 meter wide. And due to constant surface waterlogging of 1 to 2.2 meter depth in location 2 and 3 of the study site, normally the normal rice variety fails to grow. So in this study, 4 waterlogging tolerant rice varieties, for example, Hagneshwari, then Saraswati, Sabita and Ambika, these were sown during this study period, that is 2005 to 2012, and their productivity was compared with farmers' local varieties, that is Bankei and Dhala Kartik. During initial years, that is 7 to 12, the pond dike was utilized for the production of creeper vegetables round the year. And then the trellis were developed, and accordingly, the vegetables like bottle gourd, ridge gourd were subsequently or sequentially grown in the trellis by following recommended management practices. During later part, that is 2016 to 18, vegetable cultivation was stopped on the pond band, and forest species of quick growing like Acacia magnium, then eucalyptus were grown on the dike, which have great demand in the local market. The diameter and height of the trees were recorded at regular interval, and return was converted into annual monetary terms. So based on this, if the flood commences early, the rice even waterlogged varieties fails to grow during rainy season, and land becomes fallow within Kharif season only. To compensate this loss, in this case study, an extra rice variety, that is Hira, was introduced in Alisha village, Puri district, as a contingent plant or crop which grew successfully with carryover flood area. The rice variety was grown during post-flood period when the depth of submergence favored transplanting of it, and produced an average grain yield of 2.6 ton per hectare within 2 to 2.5 months. Then the rice cultivar in this particular ecologies of 0.75 meter and more, here the recommendation is high yielding medium duration rice varieties like Lalat, Konark, Parijat of this type of transplanted rice during December to first week of January. Similarly, the vegetable cultivation during post-flood period in water depth ecologies of 0.5 to 0.75 meter depth. To obtain more profit, the vegetables like watermelon, okra, cauliflower, spinach, brinjal, ridge gourd, these were also cultivated with harvested water, and the seasonal water use was measured as 545, 605, 495, 750 and 575 mm for this crop respectively. This is the dug well based on drip irrigation for rice vegetable cropping system in deep lowland, that is 0.25 to 0.5 centimeter. And in this case, rice was grown during rainy season followed by vegetable. Then dug well based drip irrigation for rice vegetable cropping system in shallow lowland, which is 0.1 to 0.25 centimeter. Under this condition, rice was grown during rainy season followed by vegetable like bitter gourd, ridge gourd, potato, etc. with the different crop diversification, that is vegetable and maize in rain-fed upland condition. During 2016-18, the experiment was conducted in another 3 waterlogging areas, that is mentioned here as location 4 up to shallow lowland, that is up to 0.25 meter, and location 5, that is deep lowland that is 0.25 to 0.5 meter upland condition. And in this condition, the design of dug well already presented in figure 3. Dug well based deep fertigation for rice vegetable cropping system in shallow lowland, that is 0.1 to 0.25 centimeter. Under these waterlogging condition, rice was grown during rainy season, followed by vegetables like bitter gourd, ridge gourd, potato, and the crop diversification in rain-fed upland when no ponded water is available. There, okra, bitter gourd are grown during rainy season, followed by legumes like cowpea and beans. So this is a diagram of that particular areas. The study revealed that with this ecology by different farmers, net return of rupees 60,000 to 80,000 per hectare with BC ratio of 3 to 3.2 was obtained by this technology. The cropping intensity increased by 100 to 200%. Beside increasing the cropping intensity and land productivity, fish and forest species of agroforestry based water harvesting system enhanced the water productivity for about rupees 1.1 per meter cube. Then from water chestnut and calamus cultivars, rupees 19,000 per hectare and rupees 35,000 per hectare net returns respectively were obtained. To assess the impact of the technology over large entire areas, remote sensing and GIS techniques were employed, and remote sensing images were compared before and after the technological interventions. These are the diagrams before and after. So with this, we can conclude that this study again demonstrated the capacity or capability of remote sensing and GIS techniques for developing sustainable land use systems in watershed basis. Various thematic maps generated above are overlaid to arrive at an action plan for sustainable development of this area using GIS. The comparison between these existing land use and proposed action plans gives considerable amount of growth in vegetative cover, and there is ample scope of diversification of the cultivable area through pond-based profitable farming system with short duration field crops and vegetables. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I think we're just about back on schedule, so appreciate you keeping to time. We do have time for one or perhaps two questions if they're short answers. So would anyone like to ask a question? I don't see any on the Q&A. Could I perhaps ask, with the benefit cost ratios and the profit calculations, do these include the cost of the initial investment and any bank loans that the farmer might need to undertake the system?
No, not exactly, sir, because this is totally based on their farmers' input. No bank loans are provided. Whatever inputs from their pocket, they are actually arranging, and based on the expenditure and output, they have calculated the BC ratio.
My question was about the land reshaping.
Yes, land reshaping, actually, they are developing from their level. For that, actually, no extra cost has been given either through bank loan or any other external inputs. They themselves actually done this.
The thing is that whether you have considered this investment in your calculations.
Yes, that is there. That cost is there. During calculation, it has been estimated, and based on that only that BC ratio calculated.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any other final questions before we wrap up this session or this presentation? If not, let me thank
you, sir.
Dr. very much for stepping in at last minute to give the presentation. And I'd now like to move to the next presentation. We've finished the invited talks, which are 20 minutes each, and we're now moving into the oral presentations, which are 10 minutes. So that was intended to be 8 minutes presentation and 2 minutes questions. So at around about 6 or 7 minutes. I might give the speakers a reminder if it looks like they might go over time. So the next speaker is Bidan Chandra Shokar from Bangladesh, from Khulna University, where he's a academic staff member and currently also studying for his PhD. And his talk is on optimization of nitrogen rate for wheat grown under zero tillage in coastal saline soils. So Bidan, I can see you're now sharing your screen, and if you put it on.
Can you hear
yes.
me? Already I have shared my screen.
Yes, share your screen.
Okay.
We can see the screen and I can hear you. So welcome, Bidan, good to see you. And please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chairman of this session, respected participants, all are welcome to my presentation. This is Bidan Chandra Sarkar, PhD Research Fellow from Khulna University. The title of my presentation is Optimization of Nitrogen Rate for Wheat Grown Under Zero Tillage in Coastal Saline Clay Soils of Southeastern Bangladesh. Introduction. In the southeastern coastal region of Bangladesh, most of the land remains fallow after harvest of tea almond due to a few constraints, that is delay harvest of almond rice, excess soil wetness during the sowing time of rabi crops, scarcity of fresh irrigation water, and soil salinity. A 4-year study showed that wheat fits well after tea almond, thus the cropping pattern is transforming from fallow tea almond to wheat fallow tea almond, but there is no nutrient recommendation for wheat, but only for tea almond. The nutrient status of the coastal soil is very low, especially nitrogen and organic matter content. As an emerging cropping pattern of wheat fallow tea almond, a new nutrient management is thus necessary to investigate for sustainable and profitable crop cultivation. Zero tillage in wet soil is the only option to establish rabi crops timely in the coastal region of southeastern Bangladesh. Therefore, the experiments are carried out in 2 successive years at the farmer's field with a view to optimize the nitrogen rate for wheat under zero tillage in the wet soil just after tea almond harvest. Materials and method. The location is Pankhali Dakop, Khulna, Bangladesh. Treatment 6 rate of nitrogen is mentioned here in both the years. Planting materials, Biodiversity 25, a saline and heat tolerant variety was used as planting materials, and the variety was released by Bangladesh Agricultural Research Institute. Sowing seeds are sown on 12th December in both the years at the rate of 120 kg per hectare. The seeds are placed in V-shaped furrow in a continuous line maintaining 20 centimeter line spacing. The furrow is made with the help of sickle, and the sowing depth of seed was approximately 4 to 5 centimeter depth, and during sowing time the moisture content was 40 to 43%. After sowing, the seeds were covered by fine dry soil collected from nearby high areas. Fertilizer application. All the fertilizers and 1/3 urea was applied as basal dose, and rest 2/3 urea was applied in 2 split as 20 and 40 days after emergence. Field vacant. We have vacant the field 20 to 25 days earlier by adjusting the transplanting time of farmer's choice almond rice variety, so that we can vacant the field 20 to 25 days earlier and sow the seeds in optimum time. The process of furrow making, seed sowing, and cover the seed by dry soil. Rainfall and temperature pattern during the cultivation period of wheat in the study area. In 2018-19, the total amount of rainfall during the cultivation period was approximately 350 millimeter, of which 170 millimeter rainfall occurs in the last week of February in 2019, whereas in 2019-20, the total amount of rainfall was approximately 150 millimeter, of which 40 millimeter rainfall occurs in first week of January in 2020. Both the maximum and minimum temperature was comparatively lower in 2019-20 than that of 2018-19. Soil salinity, water salinity. The salinity level at the topsoil was gradually increased with the progress of dry season. But the salinity level in 2019-20 was comparatively lower than that of 2018-19. Water salinity. Here the salinity level of water of different source, river, canal, pond, and tube well. We have used canal water as the source of irrigation. This canal is managed canal. The canal is disconnected from the river during the end of December. And the salinity level in the canal water is comparatively lower in 2019-20 than that of 2018-19. And the crop had different growth stages in the field: seedling stage, maximum vegetative stage, grain filling stage, and maturity stage. And the growth performance of wheat at different nitrogen rate in seedling stage, and the growth performance at flowering stage at different rates of nitrogen. Now, result and discussion. The grain yield and total diameter accumulation. Grain yield of wheat gradually increased with the increment of nitrogen rate, and the higher grain yield was obtained from 140 kg per hectare, which was 3.82 ton per hectare in 2018-19 and 4.45 ton per hectare in 19-20. Afterwards, the grain yield decreased in 160 kg per hectare by 8 to 18%. And the rate of increment of grain yield over no nitrogen added treatment was 2.1 to 4.2 times more in 2018-19 and 3.2 to 6.5 times more in 2019-20. Total diameter accumulation. The highest diameter accumulation was obtained from 140 kg per hectare, and the lowest diameter accumulation was recorded from no nitrogen added plot. Agronomic efficiency of nitrogen. The highest agronomic efficiency was calculated from 60 kg nitrogen per hectare, which is statistically similar to all other nitrogen rate except 160 kg per hectare. Net return. The highest net return was obtained from 140 kg per hectare, which was 33,000 in 2018-19 and 50,000 in 2019-20. Yield attributes of wheat grown in the southeastern coastal region. All the highest value of all the yield attributes were found in 140 kg per hectare. Waterlogged in 2018-19. In all the yield attributes and yield was comparatively lower in 2018-19. This was maybe the higher temperature in 2018-19 compared to 2019-20 in flowering and grain filling stage. The salinity level of water and the salinity level of soil is comparatively higher in 2018-19 than that of 2019-20. And another most important reason of lower grain yield 2018-19 is due to heavy rainfall in last week of February in 2019. A waterlogged condition created and the water standing in the field approximately 3 days. And we have removed the water by a pump, but the field remains saturated approximately 7 to 10 days. Now, conclusion. Nitrogen had substantial influence on growth yield and yield attributes of wheat. From the 2-year findings, it is concluded that nitrogen at the rate of 140 kg per hectare optimum and recommended for zero-tilled wheat in the coastal soil of southeastern coast Bangladesh. Apart from the rate, it is also recommended that wheat is best fitted in zero-tillage with excess moisture content. Now, I'd like to acknowledge Agrotechnical Discipline, Khulna University, Krishi Gabeshona Foundation, Bangladesh, and Australian Center for International Agricultural Research for financial support, and Bangladesh Agriculture Research Council and Murdoch University for technical support. I would like to acknowledge my co-authors, Professor Dr. Enamul Kabir and Professor Dr. Richard Bell, for their support, suggestions, and cooperation. This is all about my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Bidan. Excellent timing. So we still have opportunity for 1 or 2 short questions and short answers.
Okay. Can I ask one question?
Yes,
okay.
Dr. Shah.
Yeah, because in this zero tillage treatment or technology, weeds are the problem. So how you have checked the weeds or not as compared to this plowing of the soil and also all these activities?
There is a weed problem is minimum in southeastern coastal belt of Bangladesh. We have conducted on weeding to control the weeds. especially the field is weed free up to seedling in the seedling stage. Then after that we'd have no problems, and the weed is minimum here.
Okay. So you didn't apply any weedicide?
No.
Okay. Hand weeding you have done in the field?
Yes.
Okay.
Hand weeding.
Hand weeding. Okay, thank you.
Bidan, just for comparison, what rates would the farmers normally apply for wheat? I know it's not a major crop there, but you've suggested 140 kilograms of nitrogen. How much?
In the farmer usually applied in conventional tillage 120 kg per hectare.
So much less than optimum.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bidan. I think we should wrap up there so that we can stay on time, but appreciate your presentation. And people may have noticed that Bidan is giving a poster later on today as well on another aspect of his nitrogen fertilizer research.
Yes.
So could I hand back to Dr. Sharma to continue chairing the next talks?
Okay, now the next presentation, because this list of the presentation.
So next presentation is Mr. C. Kritika from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru College of Agriculture and Research Institute, Karaikal, Pondicherry, India.
Okay.
Her topic is exploring nutrient prescription techniques for sustaining rice productivity in coastal ecosystem.
Okay.
Kritika is there? Are you present? I think.
Kritika is there?
I'm not seeing her name in the participants list here.
Okay. Then next.
Next is Dr. R. Mohan. I think, yes, he is there. And Dr. R. Mohan, yes.
Is he here?
Yeah, he is there.
He posted a message saying, can I get screen share option? In the chat, he's asking, can he get a screen share option?
Yes, you can. Just you unmute yourself. Yeah. Dr. Mohan, are you hearing?
Yes, sir. I am hearing. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Dr. R. Mohan from again Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru College of Agriculture and Research Institute, Karaikal, Pondicherry, India. His topic is evaluation of GMO Greenrich on the growth, physiology, and yield of rice.
Sir, now can you able to see my slides, sir?
You have not shared your screen.
Yes, sir. I am not having that option, please. In my Zoom, there is no such option.
Did you get the option? Dr. Mohan?
So now
you can share your screen.
Yeah. Yes. Is it my screen is shared, sir?
Okay,
Yes,
start.
share.
It is
Yes.
visible. Start.
Yes, sir. Sir, very good morning to all the researchers, scientists, and particularly my chairman of this session. I think I am audible to all.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Audible.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to share my few of my research ideas on evaluation of Zymo grain rich on the growth, physiology, and yield price. Sir, actually, our agriculture has taken many vision time to time. First, to maintain the soil health status. Now, the present vision of agriculture aims mainly on soil health status. We have to necessarily go for sustaining the productivity and profitability, and also we have in a position to reduce the poisonous chemical in particularly in food system. So this is our main vision, for which several approaches have been. We as scientists, we are working on that particular aspect. That is, we are now searching the answer in going for pure organic farming, or whether we can reintroduce the integrated farming system, or we can go for alternate source for synthetic fertilizers in order to keep up the the productivity, or we can integrate it both inorganic and organic sources. In such a way, the entire agricultural scientists and panels are working on different approaches for attaining our vision. My research is on this particular organic farming system, on this particular attaining this vision. A biotechnological formulation that was developed by Mrs. UAL Private Limited Chennai, which is Zymo grain rich, is nothing but a biotechnological microorganism, a group of microorganism biological preparation, which can be used as an alternative to synthetic fertilizer. And in order to test verify its evaluation has been taken up during Rabi 2019-20, as well as during Kharif 2020, and now even another one more crop has been under trial. Okay, under both normal and SRI method of cultivation. All these things have been tested. For the rice here, there are 5 treatments for normal method of rice cultivation, as well as the same set of treatment was also introduced to SRI method of planting also. That is, we have compared recommended dose of fertilizer for rice with that of the Zymo grain rich, plus it was added only at 2.25 kg per acre, with rice husk 200 kg per acre and compost 200 kg per acre. Similarly, the third treatment was Zymo grain rich with 50% of the recommended fertilizer dose, and the fourth treatment was Zymo grain rich with the 2.25 kg with only DAP, not any other. That for basal initial startup we are giving the DAP, and the final 5th treatment in reduced quantity of Zymo grain rich with only DAP with the starter dose of DAP. This is our test treatments, under which when you see the plant height, we can able to see that even though the under normal method of planting, you can able to see the Zymo grain rich was lower, always lower than the normal planting with the RFD treatments, and similar result was also seen. The RFD treatment recorded higher when compared to the Zymo grain rich, as well as when compared to plant height of rice. But when you come to number of tillers that was produced by rice, the Zymo grain rich had produced almost statistically equal at the later stage, but not at the earlier stage, for both normal planting as well as for the SRI method of planting. It was well expressed in SRI than under normal planting. So, and then when you come to see the LAI of rice, again, at the earlier period, even though there was a statistical difference between RFD and Zymo grain rich alone application, On later stages, it becomes equal to that of statistically equal to that of the RFD, both under normal as well as under SRI. And when we go and see along with the DAP or along with the 50% RFD, it also proves that only zymo grain-rich application is statistically equal to that of the recommended fertilizer dose in terms of LAA. When we come to DMP again, the dry matter production, which is again an important parameter. Again, here also the RFD treatment and the zymo grain-rich application under both the normal planting as well as under SRI had proved, even though not under earlier condition, but under later stages, it has proved its efficacy with a statistically equally well. Then coming to yield parameters, these are all the three important yield parameters which are significantly different, but all other yield parameters remain non-significant among these 10 treatments. So I have just produced this productive tillers field grain and yield field grain, which are very important yield parameters with respect to rice. The productive tillers remain same under normal planting, statistically equal, but there is a slight reduction in, but it is also remain statistically equal with that of the zymo grain-rich application when compared to the RFD under SRI, which requires more quantity of nutrient requirement since it is highly need of nutrient with more spacing we are providing under SRI. Okay, but field grains as well as the coming to field grains, it was nearly equal. But coming to yield field grains, this is the lowest value we have obtained under RFD as well as zymo grain-rich application. Coming to the grain yield and straw yield part, and almost all the treatments remain on par and statistically equal, except that of the reduced quantity of zymo grain-rich under both normal planting as well as under the SRI. Other treatments, either alone, the zymo grain-rich application alone, or along with the synthetic fertilizer, it recorded equivalent yield with that of the RFD. Okay. So this is the thing. This is the graphical representation. You can able to see almost all the treatments remain same under normal planting as well as under the SRI method, except the reduced application of the zymo grain-rich. Okay. So now coming to the conclusion, within the short period of time, I will try to present all these things. So the growth parameters like plant height, tillers, leaf area index, dry matter production, even though was much favored by RFD treatments at the early growth stages, the zymo grain-rich treatment remains statistically on par in the later growth stages due to their continuous, persistent, and constant action of the microorganism in the root rhizosphere region. So this is very important region where we are concentrating, and on statistical point of view, this RFD treatment and zymo grain-rich application at the rate of 2.25 had registered significantly similar and statistically equal highest grain yield under both normal and SRI method of planting. When compared to the soil properties after harvest, all the pH, EC, organic carbon, available NPK was significantly varied between the treatments in the post-harvest soil. But one thing we have to be very particular, the organic carbon status was higher in the zymo grain-rich application, and the pH was near neutral, whereas other treatments recorded slightly acidic soil reactions. So with this, I conclude with a very small, even though it is a very small research point, I want to stress this point to the presenters. Thank you very much for hearing me, and thanking one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mohan.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this, I want to ask one question.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So you have conducted this experiment how many years?
Sir, actually, I have conducted 4 rice experiments, but I have presented only one experiment data to user.
Okay.
Because still others are under processing, I have not submitted the data. But in a full-fledged research, after 4 completed, then I will be submitting all the data as a research paper.
Okay. Then I am thinking then that this LAI, leaf area index,
okay, sir,
is too much. Because in the crops, mostly any crop, it will not exceed more than 5.
Yes.
But the dense forestry of
Yeah.
forest area, it will beyond 5 or
Yes.
6, 7, 8.
Yes.
But in your experiment, it is 9.
Yeah.
How it, because the plant is canopy does not increase more than 9 times from the soil surface area.
Okay.
So please check the
Yes.
data.
Yes. So
Okay.
actually, I agree with this particular point. Actually, LAA, the optimum LAA for rice is 6. As
Yeah.
per Yoshida,
Yeah.
it is 6.
Optimum,
If it
no,
is
maximum LAI is the 6.
Yes, sir. But
Yeah.
I just have to be again want
Because
to stress this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
It is not maximum, sir. It, as per Yoshida, it is only an optimum LAA for maximum yield. If it goes higher than 6 or lower than 6, the yield will be considerably reduced. This was the point as per Yoshida. So if it was recorded more than 6 means there will be a drastic reduction in the yield. So that is the point. Maybe due
Yeah.
to the LAI.
Okay.
So that means we
Okay.
have to adjust the spacing accordingly.
Yeah. Okay. So what is the seed rate?
Normally 30 kg per acre we are using here.
Because it's the SRI technique.
SRI 2 kg.
SRI 2 kg.
2 kg
Okay.
per acre.
Okay. Is there any question, clarifications?
May I ask one question, sir?
Yeah,
Sure,
yeah.
sure, sir.
Okay, sure.
Dr. Mohan, have you worked out the economics of this application of Zymo Grain Rich?
Yes, very good question, sir. Since I do not know, this is under first testing. Since the product was evolved and we are the testing under the research institute, we do not know what is the exact price that they are going to. It is not released for the farmers still. It is pre-release product.
And second is, what is the mechanism of action of this particular product? How?
Sir, Zymo is the word that you can able to understand. You can get it from anywhere. It is the group of beneficial microorganisms, biotechnologically tooled to give beneficial activity in the root rhizosphere region. So this particular product, even though I do not know what is the exact microorganisms that are being there, it is a trade secret of that particular company. So this particular group of organisms are doing rhizosphere activity for the better crop growth and yield.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mohan. You
Thank
close
you,
the screen.
Thank you very much, sir, for all.
You close the screen.
Yeah, I stopped sharing.
Yeah. Okay, who will be the next speaker?
The next speaker is Dr. Tushar Narayan Thorat from Dr. Balasaheb Samant Konkan Krishi Vishwavidyalaya, Dapali, Maharashtra.
Okay.
Dr. Thorat is there? Are you here? I don't see him in the screen in the as a participant.
Okay, the next. Oh.
Next is Dr. Sitanshu Sarkar from ICAR Central Research Institute for Jute and Allied Fibers, Barakpur, West Bengal.
Yeah.
He was there initially, but now I'm not seeing him. Are you there with other name? Dr. Sarkar?
Okay, I think he's not here.
Yeah, not there, sir.
Next.
Next is Dr. B.S. Satapathy from ICAR National Rice Research Institute, Cuttack, Odisha.
Okay, he is here.
Also not seen in the screen.
Okay, next.
So now these are the 6 oral presenters.
Okay.
So last 3 are not there.
Okay.
So I suppose we could finish the session here.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir. Yeah. Because the last 3 presenters are not present.
So
And
it will over well with the time.
And the final 2 presenters are in the next session, so
Yeah.
we should keep to that program.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if we have no more presenters, I guess if there are some more questions from previous talks, if anyone didn't have an opportunity to ask a question that they'd like to ask of Dr. Jatish Biswas, or I think Dr. Mainuddin had to go to another session. Bidan, Dr. Saha, any other questions?
I want to ask one question to Dr. Biswas, Dr. Jatish Biswas. You are recommending the use of sawdust and rice husk. These are very good organic sources of nutrients.
Yeah.
But thing is the availability, because some of these products are also used otherwise, like rice husk as animal feed, and the availability of such huge quantity, 5 ton per hectare in coastal region, how this could be managed?
Yeah, it's a good question actually. You know, when we are sick, then we spend a lot of money for ourselves. So similarly, if we really want to amend our soil, sometimes we have to take a costly way. And you are very much right that straw is used as livestock feed. And nowadays, actually, while improving of mechanization, that means the harvesting, some straw remain in the field. So if it can be managed, it gives a little better. But nowadays, what we have found is that if we can really recycle kitchen waste, and
I was talking about rice husk, not straw, rice husk.
Oh, rice husk. Okay. Okay. You know, a lot of rice mill in our country, so it can be used easily.
Yeah, availability is not a problem.
Yeah, it's not a problem actually.
Okay.
Is there any other question? If not, I guess we are resuming at 1:20, is that correct? 1:20 Indian Standard Time. And we have the final 2 presentations in this theme 1 session.
Yeah,
2.
the next session, yeah. Next session is 1:20.
And so Dr. Munir Saman will be giving a presentation, and one other speaker in that next session. So it looks like everyone gets a longer break.
If Dr. Munir is ready to present, then we will start.
Yeah, he is ready actually. Yeah, yes, I am ready if you are interested.
Because time is sufficient.
Yeah.
Well, my suggestion is we don't do that, because there may be some people who planned to listen at 1:20.
Okay, yeah. It is all right. Yeah. Somebody is interested to present the next 1:20 session, then it is all right. Okay.
So on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank everyone for the presentations and the questions. And we look forward to continuing shortly. Don't forget that Theme 1 and Session 2 has a number of posters as well, which will be presented this afternoon in a different session. So Dr. Sharma, anything further that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very informative and very nice presentation, and more so that all the presentation are over well within the time. It is very much appreciated. And also this different presentation in this session, agriculture, crop management and cropping system intensification. It is a very much important topic related to coastal salinity, because this cropping system intensification is very much required to increase the farmers' income of this area. So this is in nutshell, and I am thankful to organizer to invite me to get the opportunity to share the ideas and also the interaction with the other scientists in the globe. So thank you very much, especially the Dr. Barman, Dr. Sen, Dr. Sarangi, for this very nicely arranged this international seminar. Thank you very much. Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.